In the last animation challenge, you saw how a flour sack relates directly to awesome old school animation like Bambi. But in that Bambi clip that I showed you, Bambi wasn't just jumping. Bambi was shocked and excited while they were jumping and doing all these things. There was personality there. And that's what animation's all about. That's why we're all here, right? To breathe life into characters, to show that personality, tell a story. And that's why I'm really excited for this challenge, because that's what we're going to be doing today. Today, in day 6 of the 28-day animation challenge, we're going to bring a flour sack to life, give it personality, hopefully make people care, and tell an entertaining story. So this animation, we're really going beyond the mechanics here and bringing an object to life. And that means we're going to be giving this emotion, and emotion's going to be in there through the body language, in the posing. And just going in here to start planning this out, we're really going to be thinking about each individual pose and therefore the emotional progress of our character. From what I'm thinking, our character is going to be sad in the beginning, and then they're going to end up happy. It could be, you could take it to the extreme and say they're depressed, and then they are overjoyed, right? That contrast is really strong. We're going to see that really big change in the body language. It should be clear to us that a character is feeling this because the contrast is so strong if we do our posing right and the rest of the stuff in the animation. There might also be, I'm just imagining the character's sad, and then there's going to be a little bit of time for them to maybe process like something that's going to make them happy. And so maybe they have awareness. They've noticed something, and then they became happy. I think that'll be more the transition of our character through this scene. My idea is to have the character waving. That's the happy bit, right? Having them waving that they saw somebody that they've really missed, or somebody that they've always wanted to meet, that they're, somebody famous that they love, and they're like, "Hey, over here, good to see you," or something like that. Something kind of simple, still tells a story. So I think we're gonna run through these emotions and then try to find the poses and stuff that is going to convey that and how to move in between them. So starting out, I'm gonna give a little bit of time. I think I want the character to walk in the beginning. I'm going to give us some time though. Let's say 24 frames, and then let's start with our character. Our character's sad, right? They're starting out sad. They're not happy yet. They're depressed. They're not sure if they can continue on. This is just the worst, right? Life is so difficult. That's the feeling we're after. So kind of getting that with this compressed shape, that thing that we always do when we're depressed or sad, tired, right? So kind of slumping down the tassels on this flour sack, and then we're gonna linger there for a little bit because we got to feel that emotion. We can't just be there for a couple of frames, a split second. We won't feel it. We won't even see the pose. So we're gonna hold out here in this depressed moment a bit, and then something's gonna get his attention. So he's gonna pop up into noticing. It's gonna be a bit of a bit straighter in this extreme. Pop up. If I was drawing this better, I'd probably have a little bit more 3-dimension to this, so you see the side of the flour sack. So excuse my drawing. I'll probably be disappointing a lot there since I'm not a 2D animator. Lots of scribbles, but this really helps me to get a handle on, thinking about all the different poses our character can go through, thinking about the story, the journey our character is going to go on. So they're going to pop up, and we can do this really quickly and roughly, as opposed to, and really focus on the shapes and our character's body language here, these poses, without worrying about the tech side of the the character rig and the 50,000 controls and that kind of stuff that often happens. If you're a 2D animator, obviously you won't have to worry about that. So that'll be an advantage for you. So he's popping up. He's got these kind of like ears and antennas, and he's like, hey, something's caught my attention. So we'll have to put in some breakdowns here. Maybe we can just I'll put in like one here where he's kind of starting to lift a bit, just easing out of the trying to ease out and up from this depressed position, and then we'll have another where we're easing in. So maybe something like this. It's almost fully stretched. And you probably have a moment here where he's like, no, probably the opposite. This upper body is like coming up first, I think. Just trying to keep this volume, this mass kind of moving. I'm sure I'll mess that up a bit, but just trying to keep that stuff in mind, because we'll want to do the same thing in 3D with our character. His antennas are really like ears here to me. And he's kind of lifting up pretty quickly here. This is our breakdown. Dragging these tassels, they kind of stay behind here. And then they're gonna lift. Kind of got a little bit of a twist, a little bit of an arc here going in on that upper body head. And then he's gonna pop up here. Okay, so he's alert. He's not like super fast because he's already depressed. So he's not like gonna start this movement with a ton of energy. Unless he was like terrified of something. Fearful for his life. Anyway, so frame 37, we're gonna wanna see this awareness pose. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, it's probably good. You know, it's kind of a really quick hold. But if you see something exciting, you probably won't need a ton of time to process that it's excited. We just need just enough time for us to register this and then move on. And again, we can adjust this timing when we get into Maya. And you can do the same with whatever 3D program or animation program you're using. And then probably, so we're holding here for a bit so we can see it, right? Just real quick, while I'm thinking about it, these tassels will need a couple more frames to kind of come to a stop. So he's aware of what's happening now. He's like, what? Watching this thing, and then he's excited. So he's going to crunch down. Maybe on this side. To do opposites from what I'm thinking ahead. Just crunching down here really quickly. Big squash. Nah. These are probably dragging behind. Scrunch. I don't know what they're doing yet. I think they're gonna be like this. Be like dragging from the action, unless
takes too long, but I don't think so. And then so he's scrunching down, squash before the lift up, and pop into. I'll go 3 frames ahead, and I'm gonna pop him up on this side to do the wave. Okay, and hopefully we can get him up higher here and kind of running out of room. Might not be enough room for the wave part, the hand part. And I'm gonna pop him up over here at this angle on this foot. So this leg will be basically in the air. And have this hand, have this hand down on the side, and this one will be up, kind of waving. Right, so we're here, and then we're up here, and just gonna break down how we get there by like shooting up towards that direction. And here we're peeling that foot off the ground and really starting to stretch out from that squash. And then this is this tassel that's gonna be waving here is really dragging behind. And kind of snaps there. So now down, up, right? So he's waving, and then we're gonna have like a few frames here. So wave. We're gonna just focus on the tassel here rather than the body, because the body's gonna be pretty much staying in the same spot. But I'm imagining that as he's holding here, he'll pop up, kind of weight shift over as he's waving, and then probably kind of come further over this side and then back this way before his wave is done. So there'd be a little bit of a loop there in terms of what is his body motion. We can do that in Maya easier than I can draw, so I'm gonna save it for there. And then here, imagining that his hand will, I'll give it every 2 frames, I'll put in a new hand thing, new hand pose. Imagining his hand is coming back down to get ready for the next wave. And then a couple frames later, this bottom half of the tassel gets there first. And a couple frames later, boom. So now we got like the start of our wave just with that. We can have some twisting later too with the chest part here. This upper body portion with those swings would be really nice. And then got to repeat it, I think, a couple times for us to really see the wave from this side before it's over. So we're gonna come back down again, repeat that, and then so he's waving, and I'm just gonna go ahead and draw this for our holding frames so we can see it. I'll just speed through these. Okay, so he's waving, and then he's gonna come back down. Come back down into this squash. So super excited to see this person. He's gonna come back down into a squash here. Maybe like this. And then he's gonna pop up, same deal. I'm gonna just say 3 frames, maybe 4 frames. and then pop him up on the other side to do the same thing. And so he'll wave from here as well, and we just need to draw in all the same stuff with that hand. The other hand. So this hand's kind of like down to the side. This one's got the weight. This one's here. And then this guy will be up. Whoa, hey. Right. His hands down, dragging, and it's gonna just flip up at the last second. Hey, and then same deal. So bring this down really quick, and we'll draw all these in. Maybe his hand gets higher as the wave goes on, and then it gets a bit faster, so the spacing maybe gets closer to the extremes. And then he's waving, and then that's what we'll end our shot here. So I'm just gonna draw this in a couple times to see this pose throughout. Lots of drawings. Hey. So we got him waving, and the last bits here would just be, I think to expand on the sadness here, because we don't really get to feel the sadness too much here. It'd be better actually if this curve got a bit more intense. I feel like he's sinking a little bit lower as he's holding here. We can get that easier inside of Maya, at least for me, with my drawing skills not being up to par. But we can feel the sadness a lot more. We can break up the animation a bit from being in this one spot the entire time, so that it feels a little bit more believable this character's alive. Right? They're kind of moving around here, but it's kind of in the same spot. So I'm just gonna say we have him walk. So I'm gonna try to imagine how he's gonna slump into this position. So this would be the contact 3 frames back, maybe 4. You might be a little bit slower. 1, 2, and then we go to an up pose. So 1, 2, 3, and then I imagine him being a little bit more upright. I don't want him to take I don't want him to look like he's really lifting his foot a whole lot. So it's going to be kind of tricky for me to draw these more than the others, I think, maybe. To draw that twisting and that depth. Maybe we can show a little bit more of the side of the flour sack here too. So he's a little bit more upright, and then not like a C shape though, because I don't want him to look super happy even when he's lifting up. And then he's going to have his tassels down on that note for most of this. So he's kind of skinnying up to lift to this position. And then he's going to fall into this one. I think we're going to get more out of this if we kind of do that S shape here and really drag that upper body. So try to feel that exhale, that wave there. And then here we'll we gotta have the tassels kind of go up, I think, to help the breath, the fall there. Maybe that's up too high, but we'll play around with that. And then you can see the volume coming back in. And actually, I think I drew this too small for how big he is there, but anywho. Play that up here, and he's stretching to step here. This heel of the tassel will be up to take that contact. This is why we learn things like walks, so we can apply it to like on a human side. We can apply it to flour sack. It's also going to help us with the other body mechanics, things like jumps, which we did with the flour sack. That made us stronger with this character. So hopefully we can feel that. And then we're just going to put in the other steps to this, like, you know, a passing pose where he's still kind of slumped over but further back, maybe showing a lot more of the side of the flour sack here. I'm going to try to avoid the 3-dimension for the moment and put in like the foot dragging and the curve here. I want like a real intense curve. And here would be another down pose, so I'm really slumped over. Really slumped over, probably seeing more of the side of the flour sack here because he's gonna twist towards us for that final pose. Just slumped over. He's gonna lift a bit, but maybe not so much. To come up, start lifting. So it's really morphing in size, I think, a little bit, but hopefully you can feel the emotion in that step. And then we just need to add a couple more poses in here, I think, to maybe where this step began with the contact pose in the beginning. Maybe another couple frames in there just to have us actually feel that pressed walk a little bit more. And that should give us a solid enough plan to move into blocking. So I'm just gonna put in these remaining poses here. So I got passing to up to, wait, this is down to passing to up. So contact pose just before this, where we're gonna be maybe foot like this, I'm not quite sure. We're probably dragging that upper body, and then we're really stretching here, so this is kind of difficult for me to draw the twisting of the character here, so I'll probably do more of that inside of Maya. Won't have to worry about it getting the drawing perfect, just trying to get the attitude here, like the tassels up. This is all the backside of the character, really twisting to arrive. Maybe get that foot much closer. So maybe stretch this like so. Something along these lines. And he's down, kind of curled. Adjust this a bit. Fall into this. I think I need him a little bit lower here to work with that contact. Just trying to feel the spine, or the body drop down into this curl. And then like before this, it'll be up more, so. His foot's probably like somewhere like here. He's dragging. Yeah, it's kind of getting there. I think my drawing's making it start to fall apart with the volume of the character warping, but I think you guys get the idea, and we'll be able to kind of iterate from there inside of Maya. So last thing I'll do is I'll just add the holding frames here. Yeah, I think that's working pretty good. I think I could feel the emotion changes from his sadness. The walk is not working the best just with my drawing skills, but we can feel the sadness enough just to see the switch to the happiness there. And he feels really happy with that switch. Just how quick he kind of jumps up there and is like, hey, right? And we're just going to end it on that note. There's a lot of ways that we could end the shot, but it's going to start to get much longer from there if we add more.
Now inside of Maya for blocking, I've just built the depressed pose for our plan, and I'm kind of setting keyframes accordingly from that timing. And to save view time, I'm going to time lapse through a lot of this because I'm just rebuilding the poses that we already drew out in the planning phase. So a lot of this is me taking the time to figure out what controller is right to get the right shape, and then just the general time that it takes to pose. So feel free to skip through this to see the end result, or go back to the planning to look at which key pose, because I've just got that off screen here, and you can see I'm fiddling around with legs and trying to get the base of the flour sack to go to the bottom of the floor without going through the floor, those kinds of things that just tend to take a bit. The walk, though, there would be a little bit more thought process there because we didn't work that out so much in the plan, and we'll be essentially, building the basic key poses that are in every walk that you learned in the Avatar Walk Challenge. But of course, applying that to how a flour sack could walk, which is also a first time for me, never having a 3D flour sack rig when I was a student. So here we've got our awareness pose, making sure to grab all controls and key it, and then go ahead and map out the frames we need for the next pose, which is going to be the wave, the next major key pose. We'll put some breakdowns, in this after the fact, but I just really want to get him up on that left foot. And sometimes this happens where I realize that the tassel wasn't keyed on each of the poses, so I'm just kind of revamping those and stamping keys down so everything's holding correctly. And here we're just going to put in that breakdown to kind of get into that wave. So I'm going to squash the character down and thinking about how the tassels are going to drag, and then how this hip is going to shift to show the weight. This hip is like the base of the flour sack. And then another breakdown here very close to the key pose where I just really favor that ease in there to shoot the flour sack up there quickly and really drag the tassels to as if it was a hand, that was gonna come up last and then hit the wave pose. This one's I need to play around with to figure out the overlap of basically the idle hand. Have some drag there. So I'm working out some of those details that we didn't, necessarily have down in the planning just from my lack of, drawing skill. And then translating some of the things like the top of the flour sack. From here, I'm going to then, put a key every couple frames for the wave that we drew. So I'm just kind of mapping out that time, and I'm gonna get the tassel, hand here, in the right pose from our plan, and then adding a little bit of twist to the top of that flour sack, so it feels like there's a chest there that's twisting to go with this this hand wave, right? It's pretty time consuming because it's got all these controllers here just to get that simple line that we were able to draw in 2 seconds. And I'm constantly like scrubbing these things when I get this many keyframes in there, just to see if that drag is working. And then I'm trying to add just that little bit of rotation so I don't have to worry about it later when we hit auto tangent. It's going to be close to what we need. Now, since you know, we need a little bit of repetition on the wave to see it, and he's going to wave the other side, but it's the same thing. I'm just going to copy this part of the wave that's already working, just duplicating it one more time. So I'm going to copy each pose over a couple frames so it waves a couple times, and then I'm going to copy the whole section over, including the squash down, to transition into the wave on the other side of the screen with the other hand. And then we're just going to mirror this. So we're going to select all that and use our mirror tools here with Animbot. But you could repose it. You could use a different mirror tool. You don't have to have Animbot. You know, if you're using another 3D program, maybe it's already built in. And then here, I'm just going to adjust the rotation of this wave now that it's mirrored to, you know, make it look like he's waving kind of in the same direction towards the same person, even though the pose is kind of flipped, right? So gone into the graph editor on the top controller to move that whole rotation, and just tweaking the squash that's coming down to lead up into it to make sure that's kind of leading from the previous wave pose. And this is one of those things that was still in our plan. We're just going to make sure we're adding every controller and, you know, putting in those rotations in here on the rig. And so we got the full wave now pretty quickly just by working smart. And I'm gonna take care of these other little things like the foot not going through the floor, try to pin that stuff down, make that clean for our auto tangent pass. And here I'm just gonna break down how we're gonna go from that depressed to the awareness pose and try to really favor our extremes to ease out and ease in intensely. You know, I'm gonna be adding a little bit of an arc going out to screen left there as he comes up. And making sure we're considering that lower control, considering that weight shift, and then, you know, readjusting the rate downs accordingly to ease in and out of those extremes. Of course, there's also these little things like the feet here too. So trying to figure out where I want that foot exactly based off of the wave pose and, you know, the rotation translation of it. Don't want it in that much, so keep it back and just try to plan accordingly with these poses. So maybe there's like a little bit of movement there, but not like a float, right? We don't want it to be floaty. It's like a little foot adjustment so that foot's not frozen, but not just drifting. And then here I'm going to start mapping out the walk. Okay, so just the first few poses of our walk. We're in a down pose, basically, in this depressed position. So I'm gonna create the contact 3 frames back from that, just to start. And, you know, I'm gonna have that heel up. Those tassels will be up as well, as if they're kind of dragging behind, drifting, flapping. And then have him up a lot more so he can really collapse down into this pose. We're going to want to have a lot of weight to really show that depression. And then 3 frames back from that contact, we're on 18 here, we're going to build our passing pose. So I'm really kind of going like a mixture of straight ahead, pose to pose here, just to rough this out based off the key poses we already know from our avatar walk. And here I'm remembering that a high pose, you know, this high pose, I think I said passing pose earlier. This is the high pose. The foot is still kind of coming into position. So that's what I'm putting in there. And then I gotta make sure that's not kind of going through the floor with the base of the flour sack control. So I want to see that foot kind of kick up and into the contact. And here our upper body is going to be higher and leaning back more. I still want to have the character not, you know, necessarily totally upright. There should be like a little bit of a lean forward the whole time. Bring this controller, the weight is going to shift into the left hand side on the bottom. So I'm trying to put that in. And then I'm trying to get as much as I can some of that dragging overlap here to get weight of him falling down into this sadness, this exhaustion that he has, right? And as big a change as possible. And then, yeah, just adding another passing pose here. 3 frames back from the high pose. And as you remember, the weight hits this extreme weight shift on that passing pose. So I kick that weight over the planted foot. And then the other poses, it's shifting over. I still want to be conscious that I'm keying everything on the same frame so things aren't getting messy. And the passing pose, I'm still like lifting up that upper body. And keeping him kind of down and back, that we have somewhere to go. From here, though, we're going to put in our remaining few poses of the walk, and that will take care of our blocking. So here we have contact, down, up, passing, and then we're going to put in another frame, 3 frames back of a down. I'm just going to twist back more. Like that. Let's actually move the character back. Have it rotate on here. Try to keep it in the same spot, so looks like it's pivoting from there. And this is going to be our down pose. So really squash down. Slump, and then we're gonna have that next contact pose really quickly. So we're gonna open up the twist in the hip area even more, bring this foot further back. Actually, I'm gonna keep this foot further back here. Maybe this is too far. Kind of weird imagining the flour sack as a foot and a hip here, but hey, it's working so far. I think we can keep selling this. So the foot's kind of pivoting from here, hopefully looking like it's rotating from there. And then we get something like that. Boom. First step. Didn't obviously work out the body yet, except for this twist here.
I feel like this would be more the position on this foot. Still kind of slump forward, right? That's what we want. Not so much twist yet. Kind of hanging back, favoring the contact pose. And then we're gonna have these tassels up. And then up pose again. And take this all the way to frame 1. Here we're really dragging these tassels. And this foot is the one that's going to be down, so okay, so this foot is down. We kind of worked out the other poses to make that fit. And the twist will be reduced here, and our weight will be shifted more on this side, and we're going to be higher up over here because this is the foot that's coming in for the landing. And then this contact pose, we're gonna have this up. We forgot to have that up because we're going kind of straight ahead here. And then this is probably back more. Trying to bring it back more. The weight's over here, it's going to come over to the right. This might be a bit too high up. I don't want our flour sack to get up too high in the air. I want to feel like he barely has the energy to continue each step. Boom, boom. And then maybe one more pose here. And then we're just going to add extra frames to that walk. So we got a fun rough block of the flour sack. I'm going to add extra time for this walk because it feels a bit too normal, not sad and depressed. So I'm just going to give each frame, each step, each key pose an extra frame in there. And we might need extra time in this hole, but I'll probably sort that out later. I'm going to slide everything over to frame 1. The tassels might be too flappy, but we can, we can play around with that too. We might have like a bit of a pause every time the character comes down too. For like this down pose. This is a little bit out of balance. Let's go ahead and add just a little bit extra time when the character's on the down pose. So each down pose will take longer. Yeah, I think that feels a bit better. More depressed. And then we've already got the excitement in there. I think the wave is working pretty well. This wave is pushing too close to the edge of frame, but we can just maybe back the camera up a little bit. Lift it up. That's our blocking. I think it's communicating the idea pretty well. We're still going to need to add some movement while the wave is happening so the character doesn't look still. I refine this stuff more, but it's coming along pretty good.
And hey, by the way, I hope that you're picking up so much and discovering so much about how acting can be applied to even such a simple character like a flour sack. But if you're also serious about becoming a animator professionally, to work in movies or games, get a paycheck for it, have that be your career, you should consider unlocking Pro Mode if you haven't already. You're going to get harder challenges that build off of the ones you're doing right now, just so that you become a pro faster. You really push yourself, right? But they're only available to the people that have decided to unlock these promo challenges. It's free to do so, so you have no excuses. Just go to unlockpromo.com and we'll see you on the other side. And to give you a little bit of a tease, here's some of the animations being made by people in pro mode right now. Without simpler characters, I'm now going to auto tangent. So we've got a pretty solid blocking. And now let's see what we get just by hitting auto. All right, so I think our timing is a little bit off here. I think we can add a lot more drama to his steps by making some of them take longer, especially in the high moments. And I think we can work on some of the overlap of it as well, giving it some weight. We can clean up the feet here to not go through the floor, kind of plant better and hold position better. We could probably hold this pose longer to feel this moment right here before he pops up, and I think we'll need some extra time for this as well. And then this is too stiff, having this leg here and the flower sac itself. The body is just too stiff without moving around. So we're gonna add some arcs to that, some pretty simple arcs. We'll kind of might go straight ahead with it, and some detail things we might clean up, like that overlap. And some of the peel off of the feet, and the leg on the ground here, so it doesn't go through the floor. So I'm just going to start with I think the wave section. Wave section feels pretty close to what we want, and I think the walk's going to take probably the most work to clean up, just because there's a lot going on. But overall, I think pretty good for just hitting auto. Like, we got a lot of weight in this move. So let's see, scale down to 51 frames. Just gonna arc track this, and we'll have to go object mode. The axis here is kind of tricky with keeping our angle, so we're gonna have to rely more on our eyes. And I'm just thinking where we can kind of raise the character and lower the character. And I know that when the character comes down, I want this to start coming over. Like, I want that weight to start coming screen right, because we're gonna start kind of like that. Start selling that idea of weight shift. So he's not just stuck here the whole time. And here we might come over too. So maybe here we'll just gonna go straight ahead here and see what I kind of come up with. I don't want him to go up and down too much.
Maybe there's some sort of figure eight I can build here. Just imagining as the character kind of comes up again. This one could start to kind of come over, I think. We don't need to really get super carried away with this. That's why I'm just kind of making up some kind of loop. But oh yeah, that already feels way better, right? He's not just stuck in place. There's arcs there, even if it doesn't have like the best spacing in the world. Let's see. Much looser, right? Compared to this side. For the other side, I could quickly just copy everything over and mirror it, or make some quick loops like I did for the first one. To save you some time though, I'm just gonna skip ahead to when this is done and we'll move into the next part. Yeah, I think that's working pretty well. Now we're just going to do a similar thing for the bottom. You see how this controller just kind of like comes up and then stops very harshly. We want to fix that, and we also want to work on some of this weight transfer here. That's going to help us too with this leg. So we're just adding these details and mechanics to, to stay focused on the character's performance and not get caught up in, oh, his body is completely frozen there, that looks weird, rather than just enjoying the character's wave, the character's emotion right there, right? And once again, I'm going to kind of use this idea of like coming back, dropping down as a guide. The weight is coming back over. Kind of getting small, harder to see. So it launches up to a high point here. And then here. We got kind of like a figure eight, just like we do on the top. Funny enough. There we go. If we're gonna polish this to the highest degree to. We'd work in all the little wiggles here, the rotation, you know, to make it to sell this even more. I think we're getting enough movement with the texture and stuff that I'm happy with how it is. We don't need to you know, spend too much time on all those details. You know, we can focus on the character's performance more than all of these little overlappy bits, which is going to add, you know, a 5% better, you know, movement to our wave here. Rather focus our time more on the walk and stuff. Better to get those bigger details in there, or to work on things like this. So I'm just going to add the last loops here for this ending one. And once again, to save you time on the mirrored action, I'm just gonna skip ahead to when this is done. So we got another figure 8 here. I didn't do loops like I did the top on this side, but I think it'll work fine. Yeah, so we don't feel the body now stuck there. Now the feet really stand out, so let's work on them. First, the quicker thing to do would be to pin these feet down that are on the floor. So what we'll use here, make sure we're on live object axis, since that gives us the direction we want. And then we don't want really this line to move. The rotation of the foot's fine. Gives us some extra secondary action, which is probably just a leftover slight movement I did that I didn't even notice I did. So here I'm just trying to maintain that it's on the ground there. Actually, this kind of thing is faster here, because we've got so many keys, so we'll just delete these where it's supposed to be flat on the floor, and we'll maintain that. Right? That same position, so then it holds it perfectly. And we don't get slight like wiggle vibration there. In between frames then are fine, because this curve is staying flat, it's not going anywhere. Which is fine for a foot that's on the floor, right? Kind of moving around here. Not necessarily a fan of. Well, I think that's good enough there. There's a lot of movement here, which is coming kind of just before our wave. Could potentially, you know, come in and add something like that, you know. We could also, you know, get more rotation here. It's just won't easily keep the tassel on the floor, so that sort of thing would be easier to draw than to get in with these controllers. This might be like too much secondary action here. Tone down how high it goes. Maybe here I can have that up overall for this hold. He puts a weight down on it, and then you can see how working on one thing might give you an idea for another. And then let's just keep flattening out that foot position. Need that. I don't want it to look like he's coming off the floor and kind of start to see underneath and see the background, so I'm gonna keep it down here.
this pose at least. And then we can kind of get it, we can kind of move it when he moves. Now this can start coming down, and we can get like a little bit of drag there. Maybe more on the tip of this. Such a tiny detail. Anyway, we got really focused on that. The foot's pinned down a lot better now. We just reduce this rotation that's kind of distracting now on this tassel. It's supposed to be not drifting like this through there. So there's this rotation on this foot. It's just gonna hold that position. So I'm gonna copy those rotations so it stops moving. I don't really want that slide back here either, I don't think. I want that foot to stay in place. So here, we'll just delete these keyframes. Really poppy there, which we'll get to just a second. Then here, keep that kind of in place. Make sure this is a bit too crazy. This is really this frame here. It makes it go wild. Maybe start pulling this up actually, so that isn't so poppy. Right, and then what will happen here with the foot? It's going to bend this kind of whole position, and then here we'll probably keep this down longer actually, so we can get like a proper like stretch peel off as if you had a foot with toes. So that's probably clean enough. Right. Just trying to make that not distracting on the way that it comes up. Maybe it's wiggling a little too much, but there we can still tweak it further, but
I think it's good enough for now. It's not that distracting. And then this is really distracting. The way that this foot is stuck here. So I want to pick this up and kind of have this do some kind of loop, or at least some up and down, a little bit of side to side. So let's do that here. Let's see, what's a great angle for us. We'll bring it up here and can bring it in. And then we can have it kind of kick out sometimes. Hopefully that's not too much. Like as he extends up, we'll probably want this to come down further and further. And then as he starts to kind of come down, we'll bring this in a little. So there's a bit of overlap in between it. So like here, for instance, this will probably come up on this one, just for a split second. And then that foot would actually shoot down and try to catch the body in time. So it has something that's to rest on. Which we'll do for the other part of the wave. And now that's not stuck in space. I don't think it's going back too far. Kind of hitting wall here. So this is where you can just kind of keep getting better and better mechanics to, you know, sell the motion of this, of course. Now I think that'll feel better. Here we should keep coming forward. I just feel it hit a wall there. Now we got rotation on there, so that's smoother. The trick to this will be keeping that, again, not distracting, hopefully that we didn't make that foot move too much. And people still watch the, or, you know, the audience is still gonna watch the wave. So I don't want to detract from that. If you watch the crosshairs of this rotate tool, you can see where we're hitting walls and things are kind of getting stuck in rotation. And we could add some drag and overlap to the bottom of the tassel here that makes that even better. But again, we don't want to distract from this too much. I think that's probably good enough to sell the idea that that foot isn't stuck. So we'll leave that one at that, and then we'll do the same thing to this one. So we'll skip ahead here too, just to save you the time on the mirrored action. Yeah. I mean, once again, we could go into the tassel on that foot and add more overlap, and we could add more rotation to the main control there, but it's just enough to sell the idea, and it's not distracting, so we're gonna call that good enough on those feet and handle the bigger fish to fry. We're gonna make sure this hold isn't too stuck next, work on our main holds. I'm going to end up extending our timeline because we're going to extend some of the time of the holds that we have and the walk. We know that. So here I'm going to all select and I'm just going to add some frames there. 3 or 4 frames. Just to give the character a little bit more time to read things here. I'm gonna scale my timeline down, just focus on that section. Actually, why don't we go ahead and retime the whole thing and make our timing changes. So this is a short moment to, like, if we play this out, boom. He doesn't really feel like he's depressed very long before he notices this thing, which I guess we could do. And now the awareness is actually longer than the sadness. So I'm gonna give us a bunch of frames here. I think we can even go to like something like 48. It's like 18 frames. And never mind how it's kind of moving at the moment and with drifty, and it's got that leg kind of drifting. I'm just looking more at the timing of this and seeing if that emotion works a little better. If it reads better, the time we spend. Okay. Boom, boom. I think that's a better amount to hold there. And then for our walk, I want to give our high moments a bit more time. We can come down quickly, faster than this, I think. So I'm gonna maybe reduce time there. This is our highest moment. So I'm gonna add, I'm looking at our up pose really and trying to favor the time there. I just really want it to feel like for each of his steps. Maybe we're coming down too quick now. We are going to make the overlap better so, there's more weight to it. And we can give extra time to the second step here. So, like, I want it to feel like he almost can't go on anymore. He's so exhausted, right? He just can't. So this final step, the up, is gonna take a while. And then he comes down. Boom, boom. And I think here even we're going up too quick. Okay, so that's there. I think that timing overall is better, and I think that will work out for us once we tweak the movement to give it some more weight. So let's work on our holds, and then we'll get to the walk to tighten down on that. So our ending's looking pretty solid. Here, we're just too stuck. So the tassels shouldn't finish at the same time the pose does. So I'm gonna copy that down actually, and maybe we have them overshoot. Huh? Maybe that's a, huh? Maybe we can feel that a little bit better there, right? And then I want to create a little bit of movement for the character here. I think it also makes sense to rotate him a little bit, like he's looking somewhere else than when he was here, where he's kind of like looking this direction. If we add like a little bit of twist, then it's like he's glancing off somewhere. Kind of twist here. It kind of goes counter to what we're doing there. Rotation. Create a little bit of translation up so it's not dead, not frozen. Do the same thing here. Body weight's more on this side, so I'm going to add a little bit of rotation up there. Twist away a little bit. Now he's moving too much through there. So we just want to keep alive, but we don't want drift. We don't want it to be drifty. We have to use both of these controllers to, you know, kind of keep the shape from being drifty. Let's clean this foot up so it's not moving right through here. Tiny bit of something, if anything. Better. It's really drifty here. Yeah. Okay, so now that's pinned down. We got a little bit of extra movement here. Just check this rotation. Opposite direction. That is too much. And now let's work on this depressed moment here. I just want to feel him kind of slump down, I think, even more. Right? Like if he's doing anything in this moment, he's just sinking in his sadness. And then he's gonna pop up from there. And as I say that, I think, you know, because we got these like ears here, there's a chance here for, like, to expand the pantomime to have this connect a bit better. You could have like this ear come up, like you hear something first, right? Because it's like, how does he notice anything? We could like convey that to the audience by maybe he stays in this pose longer than we even have it, and we have an ear pop up. Like he's like, you know, it's like a quick kind of glance to the side, and then he, you know, really jumps up like a double take. That's how we could do it. And then I think this shape is probably better. So I'm going to copy 61 to 43. And then I'm just going to relax this a tiny bit. I don't want that drifting too much through there. There, now we focus more on the body. And I think I even want it stiller than that. So let's see this rotate Y. Rotate X, rotate Z. We got very minimal change on that control. Now he's not frozen. He's not too drifty there, I don't think. And probably get some more drag out of this by, you know, giving us some overlap here. So not everything just finishes. I'll copy that down to 61. I'll add like a little bit of movement here. That was quite easily too much. Just thinking here we'll have that overshoot as well. Could have a couple of bounces in there even. And I think that feels nicer. Still, you know, we can improve the weight on them, but once again, I think it sells the idea without getting caught up in too much detail yet. So overshoot comes out further and then back again. It's probably too much. So I think that just adds to that attitude of, right? They kind of flop about like their arms that are just dangling. So with that, I think we have a much nicer hold for that sadness, much nicer attention pose, awareness pose, and then we've got our wave in there now too. So all that's really left here is to get that walk in gear. Tassels are too busy, but I'm not gonna start there. I'm gonna start here, you know, with the body stuff and really try to work out that feeling of that depression and try to get that stronger, right? We need a few. We need this pose to actually be stronger. That's the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this down. And then this is like going into our passing pose. So this is our down pose. Just really wanna keep him in this depressed state and then just make that so it's a bigger contrast here. And then this foot is going to be coming forward, so the weight's going to drop off that flower sack hip. Weight's going to shift over. Screen right. And then it's going to kind of stay over there for a bit. Going to kind of stay tilted for a bit. And then it'll work its way over. When we get to the contact position now, weight's going to be kind of halfway, and then it will swing. Rotation goes up on this side because the weight's shifting over it for the passing position there. weight should already be on the down pose tilted closer to this position on the passing pose. So I'm gonna just start shifting that weight and that rotation more. This is going through the floor right now. So I'm just gonna go ahead and fix that really quickly. We don't need it to be, again, like the perfect foot peel off. It's just a flour sack like tassel. So we don't have to take it to the level of detail of our avatar walk. And so it's kind of looks like he's dragging his foot forward with our timing right now, which is kind of nice, right? It's very sad. Very mopey. Now, let's check our art tracker here. And we can see that we don't have much of a lift up in this position. And we definitely want it to lift up there because you know, he needs to have that inhale to have the exhale to mean anything, right? To feel anything out of that. And I don't want to necessarily come down so quickly this contact pose. Kind of like having this angle in the up pose to have it always feel like he's slumped over, even though he's like a straighter shape in the up pose. And this is going to give us weight. We're really favoring the up pose. We're coming up quickly, kind of hanging there for a while, and then we drop down. And when we do that to the upper part of the flower sack too, that should really make a difference for us. Our upper body kind of gets stuck there. Now let's work on this part. I think he comes down too quickly. Rises up, yeah, and drops down very, very fast. The wrong point. Upper body's back still, I think. Well, kind of keep this lean, maybe. And then maybe we scoot this ahead. And here we can scoot this. Rise up again quickly. I want to bring this back, but I like the lean forward that we have. And that might that'll probably change this position to have him a little bit further forward here. Um, We might move back the lower body just so we don't have to come too far forward. Here I'm going to bring him back some too. We didn't do that for the... We adjusted the hold, we should have. Maybe we push it. Okay. Boom. Boom. Really would like to get like an S shape here. It's really hard for me to kind of get that out of this. Maybe if I do this. Yeah, I guess that's what I've been missing, was really including this controller here. I'm gonna rebuild this contact then accordingly. To include this controller. Yeah, I think I should have been using this middle controller a lot more, but that's what I get for just jumping in and using a rig for the first time. And that's gonna happen for any time you guys use a new rig. It's gonna happen for any time you use a new rig, because you're getting used to how you're supposed to shape with it, like what controller does what, you know, what's the most efficient way to do something. And now that we got that in there, I'm thinking maybe we can overshoot this. Right? Maybe we can go a little bit farther with this top control. Kind of bring it down a little bit more. and then come down again. Boom. Okay, so we're kind of just creating this bounce here. Boom. And it's pretty subtle. Whoop. Make sure I get the right. Yeah, maybe we're getting too fancy there. I mean, like we could build it into the rest of the body here. I think I'm going to scrap that, actually, just to keep it simple. It could potentially have a nice feeling, but I also think we can just drop here and sink into it. And that'll work fine. So we got a pretty strong collapse there with that S shape, and we didn't need an overshoot, though that could potentially, add a different feeling to it that you like. Fun to experiment with that stuff. Let's go ahead and add some S shapes and some of that extra intensity into this drop here. We'll get to the tassels just so that they're not distracting. I want here, I don't want to see underneath the character. He doesn't feel as depressed that way. So I'd like to tweak this pose. I want this part of the character to come up first. He's really dragging his head behind. And then here we're gonna build that S pose. So now I'm basically watching this line at the back. I'm trying to watch the front as well to just see if the character is getting stuck anywhere. And I really want to see this S shape or C shape turn into an S or a reverse C here kind of, and then an S shape there. And then I just want that S shape here on the contact because our character, is going to get a lot more contrast coming into that depression, right? And then here, if I lead with this part of the character coming up first, and then I use this to then rotate more, push him down, we can really drag that head coming up. I want a little bit more time here. And a little bit more time in this area. Maybe we'll keep this rotation back a little bit. Maybe this one's coming up. And I wish it didn't influence some of these other controllers so I could do it more just a rotation thing. So I think I'm going to select all here, slide this over, give this some extra time in between that pose. And then I'm probably going to, try to milk this down pose as if it's more of a pause right through here. So I'll use Tween Machine to kind of keep that close. So we'll add a little bit of a pause there to the down right there where 21 and 26 are pretty similar. I just added some frames in here, copied 21 to 26, or used the tween machine rather to stay pretty close to that, and then I increased the rotation here so we really can milk that depression pose a minute and feel like every step he has to kind of pause and regather energy before he steps again. Does still feel like we need a little bit of time or something right through here. That's better. So now he feels tired, he feels depressed, I think, throughout his walk. We can go and then mess around with the tassels and some of the extra details. Here, as he starts to lift up, I might drag this part, rotate this down so this is behind. I'll put it onto this pose, actually. So just adding a bit of drag to this, and then hopefully that gives us a little bit of extra organic feeling to this. Maybe making him feel a little bit more labored, because this is delayed and kind of coming down and settling. Don't want it to be like morphing around though. So whatever changes we do make, we're gonna make sure we add it to that hold. And then here as we take off, we might drag again. Now we're getting really carried away with those details, but gives us a little bit of extra attitude there. Yeah, I think that feels even more like his face, right? Now that we have that part kind of dragging, we really feel the slumpiness to his attitude. Last bit here, just kind of keeping these tassels from doing too much. I'm gonna simplify what we have here. We got to make sure that they, they're coming up, they're overlapping, but not too much too soon. So somewhere in here is where we're gonna actually have our like intense bend back, and then here we're gonna curl in more. Here we'd probably still be back with them. Maybe a little. too much, too soon. Rebuild this. Just want that shape to be clean. Clean as I can get anyway.
That just about wraps this left screen left tassel. To save you time again, applying it to the right hand one, I'm just gonna jump ahead to when that's done. And here we go. I don't think it's too distracting, and a good thing we did the ball and tail assignment so we knew how to overlap this stuff. I think it's a nice little add-on to the breath, the exhaustion of this character. Again, there's a lot of things that we could do to take this to another level. We could have, I think, another step in the beginning would be nice for the to continue to sell the depression, just to spend a little bit more time on that. We could, like I said earlier, have like one of these ears come up as though. And maybe like a little bit of the side of the flour sack here as though they heard something that caught their attention. Maybe they thought they heard their name and then went back to sadness and then popped into this awareness here. That could be really nice to kind of transition. And then we could have a proper ending for this, rather than just the character waving and it kind of stops there. You know, we could get some kind of resolution. We could also add some details in here on this and, you know, make all of our rotational overlap on like the main legs and per body even stronger. But this, yeah, I think this is emoting pretty well as is. We kept it simple. So hopefully it wasn't too overwhelming. You had a lot of fun with it. So even this simple little flour sack you saw was a lot of work, right? To bring it to life. A lot of body mechanics that we had to tweak there to get the emotion to come out. You know, we really had to think a lot more about where the character's headspace was and what they're going to do and why, right? But this is a great segue for you to prepare you for full body characters that are doing even longer pantomime skits or dialogue pieces, right? This is really how we build our stronger foundation, test the skills that you already know to make sure you're ready for that stuff when it's even harder, right? So have fun with this one, keep practicing it, and get ready for the harder stuff because that's what's coming next. Now click or tap the screen for more animation lessons, and I will see you in the next animation challenge. Happy animating.